And they say that Barbadians still have a sense of humor. And I want to say to this government, I want to say to the people of Barbados, that the people in Oistins still do not believe that this government committed or spent $5 million in Oistins. And several people who operate businesses in Oistins yesterday cynically said, well, they claim they spent $5 million. Now the tragedy is that they have to spend about $15 million. And they laugh. But it is sardonic laughter because they know and they believe that the government misled the people of Barbados in terms of its claims that it spent $5 million at Oistins. And if the government spent $5 million at Oistins, it ought to have committed that expenditure to the more fundamental work of drainage, because a lot of them yesterday were up there trying to clean sand from the sea and from the beach out of their restaurants, so that there wasn't a lot of water damage at Oistins yesterday. There wasn't even a lot of wind damage to the structures. The damage came from the sea surge, the surge from the sea, and it set them back. I don't know how many of them will be able to open, let's say, today or within the next few days. Contrasting with that, I went to Dover, where the government did not claim to have spent money. No money was spent at Dover. There was very, very little disruption at Dover. In fact, one of the bars at the Dover facility was open. None of the facilities at Oistins were open. None of the facilities could have been open because Oistins, in spite of the claim of $5 million having been spent, Oistins was exposed. In spite of this claim that they spent $5 million, Oistins remain, like the fishing industry, vulnerable to the surge yesterday that took place. There was no provision made for proper drainage at Oistins. There was no proper provision made for the general protection of those businesses. So you get a sense that what is happening, government is spending money in its own interests, for its own public relations, but government is not genuinely spending money in the interest of the fishing industry. Government is not genuinely spending money in the interest of the fishing industry at Oistins, and certainly not at Bridgetown. This government and some of its members were in revelrous mood at the cricket final, when they ought to have been making preparations for this hurricane. Who have been the victims? The victims of the hurricane, the primary victims of this hurricane, have been the boat owners and the members of the fishing industry. They were left exposed to a hurricane when the government had adequate notice as to the strength of the hurricane, as to the direction of the hurricane. They have not had an opportunity to save their vessels, and much of the industry has been destroyed. I would think about 80% or more of the fishing vessels have been destroyed when this ought not to have happened.